Rick, welcome into Cars and Culture. It's my total pleasure to have you as a guest. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to be with you today.
Well, thank you for being with me. And for a guy who I know is always thinking and planning and always has news to deliver, projects on the go, what are you up to these days?
Well, I'm just trying to sell cars and race cars, and just business is good right now, on both sides of our business. And I think in our business, in both racing and in the automobile business, we have to be ready to call audibles and adjust daily to what we see in the market, and changes that we have to make. And it's nothing in today's world is guaranteed. So you have to be ready to change on the fly. So business is good, and we're enjoying it. I've never had so much asphalt in my life walking
Right.
on it, but
Well, there's a shortage of
but go.
cars. Right, exactly.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Most of our listeners might not appreciate that issue that's gone going in the auto industry related to semiconductors, of course. Some have described it, Rick Hendrick, as being one of the most unique situations that they've ever been in the auto business. Would you say the same thing?
I have been in the business for 45 years. So I've seen the era of oil embargo. I've seen, I don't know, everything that you could look at, 21% interest rates, cash for clunkers, the bottom falling out of the economy. But this has been the strangest period that I've ever experienced with the COVID situation and the shutdowns, and then trying to work around those situations with a skeleton crew for essential businesses, and then to come out of it just on fire. I think a lot of people don't want to ride share and they want a car. And so we've run out of cars. So, it's like Christmas. People are waiting for cars that are in the plant and in the pipeline, and they come in when the trucks unload, and it's the most amazing time that I've ever seen in the car business.
In fact, a lot of people even ordering vehicles while the cars are on the haulers on the way to the dealership. It's a crazy time for those who maybe don't understand the intricacies of it. Put simply, the factories can't produce the vehicles that you need, right?
That's right. Well, you look at that. It's not only the chips that's a problem. It's the plants going down for COVID. And so when the market comes back and we're looking at a 17 million unit car year, and they can't build them. I mean, I was talking to one of the manufacturers that said, we're 150% need over 100. We can build, if we build 100%, we need 150%. And it's just, I don't see any way to catch up. I mean, it's like it's probably going to be, everyone I've talked to in the industry from the manufacturing side say it's probably going to be next summer before we see. We're used to seeing 60, 90-day supply of vehicles on the ground, and you're just not going to see that. I mean, right now we're in some franchises we're at 2 days, 6 days, 12 days, and literally in a Chevy store that you carry, five or 600 cars, you've got 20 vehicles on the lot. You're selling 250 a month, and they're just coming in. As soon as they come in, they go out. And people are, they're just hungry for a vehicle, and you tell them we've got this car coming, and now we're in a situation where everything we've got coming basically is pre-sold.
That's amazing. When you think of all those, as you said, you've never seen so much concrete and asphalt in your life without
Yeah,
any
yeah.
vehicles sitting on it because you've always had inventory. And this is the nature of the car business, is that, especially in America, when you go down to the dealer lot, you pick out something you want. It's not a European model of build to order, but we could be getting there, right, Rick?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the manufacturers are seeing this too. That not a lot of floor plan costs, incentives to move product, and the customer's happier. That's the thing that I've seen. if someone's looking at a Toyota, for example, and they're shopping for dealers, and they're online, and they're calling the different dealers, and they are uh, everybody's cutting the price, and who's going to go the lowest. So if they're maybe 1,500 on the cost to sell a car, and the customer's thinking, well, could I got another $100 over at this other guy? So when they bought the car, it was like, they're not quite as not happy. They're not sure they got the best deal. Now, when they take the car, when it comes off the truck, they're so excited. It's like Christmas.
Wow.
And it's a better buying experience for for the uh, for the for the customer. And I think people are happier. I mean, they don't want to wait. They want a car now, but they're excited to see it, and it's just a different attitude, a different climate. I kind of hope we don't go back to these massive inventories, and you're in all these incentives and trying to force the market. I would like to be somewhere around just in time, and I
Mm.
think the manufacturers would like to do that too.
What'd you learn during COVID, Rick Hendrick?
I learned, that you you have to have your best people in place, and you really find out who is on the team and who's willing to roll up their sleeves and do whatever it takes. And during COVID, I didn't lay off anybody. I just was determined that I was going to pay our people 80% of what they normally make and keep the team together. And it benefited us a lot uh, rolling out of it. And the one thing we did learn is you put your best people on leads that come into the dealership. Have managers taking the calls because we wanted to work the deal the best possible way because there weren't a lot of opportunities, but we wanted to close the ones that came in. So it kind of reset our clock a little bit where we had more managers' involvement on the front end of the deal and just doing whatever we had to do to satisfy the customer, deliver the car at home, take it. Every state was different. I'm in 14 states, and California is totally different than North Carolina or Kansas. And but we learned to adapt to take advantage of the leads and not just have anybody taking the lead, but have our best people on it, work the deal thoroughly. And I think we just, again, we learned who our players and our strongest players on the team were. And we only had one rough month, April. It hit us in the middle of March. We shut down. Then we started coming out of it a little bit in May. And then we had some really awesome months, and we had the best, year that we ever had in 20, and we were ahead of that in 21.
Well, that's amazing. You think of all the years you've been in the car business. And
Yeah.
I know it didn't start that way, Rick. I want to
Hmm.
start, I want to go back to where it all started. I want to start
Yeah.
with the soybean and cotton field in
Yeah.
Bennettsville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
So you're
Well,
26, right? And you're coming
yeah.
from Raleigh, North Carolina, where you had opened
Right.
a small used car lot with an established
Right.
dealer in the area. You
Right.
were named the general sales manager of the new car import operation. Funny to think of those terms, the import
Yeah.
operation.
Yeah.
By
That's
the
right.
time you were 23, you had about 30 salesmen underneath you, sold about 300 cars a month all in. But Chevy
Right.
comes to you and offers you an opportunity to run your own dealership. And you wanted to go run your own store. And that's where we get down to Highway 401, just
Yeah.
past the county line in Bennettsville.
Yeah.
There's a house there in the middle of a swamp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Describe that dealership for me. Well, in fact, you said at one point, you said there was nothing there.
Yeah. Well, when I was contacted by GM, and they said we have three deals, and they told me where they were, and I said which, and they said, now here's the deal: if you can turn it around, we'll get you a bigger opportunity. And I said, okay, where's the deal that's in the most trouble? And they said Bennettsville, South Carolina. So I told my wife, I said, let's ride down there and take a look at it. And I said, probably it's going to be in the middle of a cornfield. Well, we go to the south, we go across the state line from North Carolina to South Carolina, and there's a swamp on the state line with an old house and falling down in it. And I'm like, okay. And we drive down into Bennettsville, and the first thing I see is a Chevy sign in the middle of a bean field. When the cornfield was bean field, and no showroom, and I'm like, I don't think so. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, and now I grew up in a small town on a tobacco farm, but this is a little bit much. So,
Well, in fact, you
and,
in Palmer Springs, Virginia, you called it a poor ass farm that you grew up
yeah,
in.
it was yeah. Well, the only thing there was a crossroads and a cucumber shed and a general store, and you would borrow a tractor from a neighbor if you had a problem. If a neighbor lost a barn, you would go help them. And I learned a lot of values from my dad growing up in that area, that you have to depend on people. You take care of each other, and I think I've tried to use that throughout my career. But that was a good lesson. But I knew I didn't want to do that for a living. I knew that was not what I wanted to do. But he taught me working on farm equipment, and we raced. I raced when I was 15 years old. So it taught me how to work on cars, and also I wouldn't take anything for it. But here I go in and start a used car operation and take over a import deal with BMW, Mercedes, and Honda, doing really well. And I get, you know, recruited, and I drive down there and I think, man, this is selling 200, less than 200 cars a year total, and they just were out of business, and it didn't have a showroom. Now the rent was $1,800 a month. I
Wow.
mean, if you can believe that. So,
Mm.
you know, but we rolled up our sleeves, and I actually got cold feet. And my wife said, "Hey, you want to do this? You might as well. Let's try it. We can start over." So I give her credit for that, and sure enough, we were successful. And Chevy called and said, "Can you handle a big deal?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do. I've got somebody that'll back me." And so went to Charlotte and City Chevrolet, and I walked into this nice Chevy store that wouldn't sell a four-speed Corvette. Uh, didn't offer F&I in 1977, and if you asked for it, they do it. And I just took the statement. And I said, okay, if I do, I know I can do 150 used cars here, 100 anyway, and I can do this, and this. Fixed operation was bulletproof, and new car business, they had good new car business. And I said, I can just plug this, and man, this is going to be a home run, and it really was. I
Sure
mean,
enough, it
I,
was.
yeah, I have to give Chevrolet credit. Back in those days, they if they determined who got the deals, and I remember Detroit had some folks in mind for that deal, but the zone manager said, "Look, this young man went down here and fixed this deal, and we told him that he'd have a bigger opportunity. He went from a big deal down here to do this, and we want him to have this opportunity." And that was a platform that everything grew from.
At 26, you were the youngest Chevy dealer in the United States.
Yep.
Incredible.
Yeah. People would ask me, "Was your dad in the business?" And I'd say, "No, my dad's a farmer."
Yeah.
No, I just love cars. And while I was going to school, I worked at a service station, and actually diagnosed a car at an auction for the dealer I went to work for, Mike Leith. And he told me, "I don't want you to quit school." I was in a co-op deal with Westinghouse, but I was working in a station, and I went with a wholesaler to an auction, and he had a problem with a car. I went out and diagnosed it as a burnt valve, and then later in the day he had a Chevelle with a clutch out of it and couldn't get a bid on it. I said, "I'll take it if you can get it back to Raleigh for me." And my mother worked in a bank, and I tell her, and I could get a 90-day note, so I would buy the car, fix it, and turn around and sell it. And and get another one. So that's how I
Always
went to
an
work those days.
entrepreneur. Always an
Oh yeah,
entrepreneur.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
What'd your parents think about you going into the car business?
My mother said, "You're going to be a used car dealer." When I left Westinghouse, I was going to be in engineering, and I needed a couple more years to get my mechanical engineering degree from NC State, and she said, I just can't believe you're going to give all that up to be a used car dealer." And I said, "Look, I love it. I think I can do it." And you know, I think she was happy down the road that I
I would
did it.
say so.
Yeah,
And your father, who was known as Papa Joe,
yeah,
he was a racer, right?
yeah. He was a weekend racer with two or three other guys, and I learned to work on cars with him. And I grew up in the muscle car era. So in the '60s, man, you were all you cared about was hot rods and drag racing. And so he and I built a 31 Chevrolet. And my granddad had this old schoolhouse was a general store. Now we were in the middle of nowhere, okay, and it was a general store. But he had this great big girls' bathroom and big boys' bathroom. So my dad and I cut a hole in the wall, and I had this 31 Chevrolet that I found when we were going to Richmond to a drag race, and I was 14 years old, and we built this hot rod in that girls' bathroom with a 55-gallon drum for heat and one drop cord, and I still have that car today. I raced it till I left home for school. And on my 40th birthday, my dad had restored it to drive for the street and drove it in the city Chevrolet with my wife and two kids in the rumble seat. So I
Wow.
still you have to come down and see the collection with that car.
I'd love to see that.
That was my first car, and I'll never let it go.
So when you look at today, Rick, billions in revenue on an annual basis, hundreds of thousands of vehicles that are sold, millions serviced, and an organization which employs more than 10,000 people,
Yeah.
you're a long way from that soybean field.
You know, I think about that a lot, and we just passed Petty Enterprises for the most wins in NASCAR in the history of NASCAR.
Hmm.
And I loved the two things I loved in life outside of my family was racing and the automobile business. And my wife and I laugh about it all the time. We stood in the back of a Piggly Wiggly in Bennettsville, South Carolina, and would add our money up to make sure we had, enough to check out. We didn't have too much food. That one, let me back up. That was not in Bennettsville. That was before Bennettsville when I was in school. But today, I look at what our companies have accomplished, and my belief it's all about people. We're in the people business, and if you can surround yourself with great people, and I've been blessed to have just awesome folks. I've got so many people that have been with me. A lot of them are retired now, but have been with me. My top management team average is about 25 years, and I thought it was really neat when I had somebody that was with me 25 years. I'd give them a Rolex, and so this year I gave 77 Rolexes out. So
Wow.
it. But I've been blessed, and I've been lucky, and I love what I do. And there's no end to the day. And I'm 72 now, and my mind will take me places my body won't go. But I love the business. I love people. I love the business, and I love the competition.
Well, and there's a motto that you live by, Rick, because you've have said in the past, people talk about customer satisfaction, but before you can have customer satisfaction, you've got to have employee satisfaction. If those
Uh,
folks don't think you care about them, as you once said, they ain't going to care about you.
no, it's just it's happy people. I mean, you've been in a grocery store when people are smiling and greeting you and asking you can help, and you go in another store and they're rude and they don't want to help you. And I walk into deals that I'm looking at to buy, and I look at the culture of the people, and most people want to be led, and I believe in servant leadership. I believe I turned the pyramid upside down. I'm there to serve them. And we use the Maxwell readings every day in every meeting on servant leadership. And I believe you live by example. And we have given out 3,500 scholarships in my son's name to our employees. And, you know, I just believe in taking care of folks. And back in when the pandemic hit, I just couldn't see not paying our people. And I said, I'm going to do it as long as I can, and didn't know where the end was. But as it turned out, we kept the team together. They worked hard. They appreciated it. And man, when it started back, where people were laying off people and couldn't find people, we had all of our folks, and we just flew. And so, 19 was our best year. 20 was better than that. 21 is going to be better than 20, and from a profit standpoint. So,
Amazing.
uh, yeah.
Let's talk about the racing. You just referenced that historic milestone for Hendrick Motorsports. Why'd you get involved with Hendrick Motorsports? Why racing? I mean, you're doing well in the car side of things, obviously in 1984, and then you decide you're going to start your own racing shop. Why is that?
Well, I raced boats. I won world
Drag
championships in
race boats.
boats,
Yeah.
drag race boats. And a friend of mine drove one of them, was killed, and I stored them over at Harry Hyde, who was an old retired crew chief. And I had a guy that was trying to help me find a sponsor for the boats that called me, and he said, "Hey, would you be interested in being partners with Casey Spurlock and Kenny Rogers and start a race team with Richard Petty driving?" And I said, "Well, is this a trick question?" I mean, you know,
The
because
Richard Petty.
yeah, yeah, and I was selling parts to all the teams, so I was kind of a conduit there in racing, so I knew everybody. And so we made a deal, and Richard backed out on me at the last minute. The name of the team was going to be All Star Racing. We will have concerts in cities where the racetracks were. It was a great, great plan, and Richard got talked into going with another team, and I don't blame him. I mean, here's a young kid that it's a Chevy dealer there in town. He's going to start a race team. What does he know? And so it's pretty ironic. Next week, I'm going down to sit down with Richard, and we're going to video a story about him talking to me about coming to drive, and then it didn't work out. And now I've just passed him in the all-time wins. And he tells me all the time, he said, "Look, I've got 7 championships. If I had gone with you, I'd have more than that." And so, uh, but it's just amazing. I started with about 8 people in the car business, and I started with with 5 full-time people in the racing business, and today we've got 650 people in racing, and we've got uh, uh, almost between 10 and 11,000 in the car business.
And 430,000 square feet of workspace on 140 acres, where
Yeah,
Hendrick Motorsports is.
and
And
that started with 5,000 square feet
wow.
of, of rented space.
And just an absolutely elite team, to say the least. And your friend and car owner Felix Sabates once said, the people before you in racing, they were just happy to be racing and making a living at it. But you looked at it as a way to make money. There was a visionary piece of this that you brought to the sport. I've got
Well,
to, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Would you agree?
Yeah. Well, I never intended to make money. I just intended not to lose my butt. But but I took a lot of the things I did in the automobile business to the racing business. And back in when I started, that nobody really had a marketing arm. They let R.J. Reynolds do the marketing for them, but the teams didn't market. So we used some of the things I did in the automobile business. working with people and sponsors and business B2B opportunities, and uh, and then I also had started to add deals, and I found out adding deals that I would take some of the best people in a dealership I had, and I'd have another opportunity, and I'd move the number two guy, number one, move the other guy out. And so in racing, it was unheard of. We started and won three races our first year, and I was renting the parts, I was renting the shop. I did it on a shoestring because Spurlock and them backed out, and now here I was. I couldn't afford to do it. I raced six races and said, we're going to have to close the shop. I don't have a sponsor. And our crew chief said, hey, Larry, I said, let's just go one more race. And we did and won. And we got a sponsor. The rest is history. And that, my story in racing was the Days of Thunder movie with Tom Cruise. And I look back at all of it and just in life you're so lucky when you meet people but if you work hard and you put good people together and you treat them right, then I believe it's hard to stop a train. And if you get a lot of people, we think we're like an elite fighting force. We're like SEALs. I do a lot of things for the military. We've built a lot of robotic jeeps, and we're doing the new chassis for the Chevrolet vehicle, and we've got some guys that design things. But I look at those guys that are just absolutely shoulder to shoulder, and I'm in the foxhole with them. I won't ask anybody in the company to do anything I won't do. I've worked on cars. I can still do. If it's old enough, I can work on it. uh, I have fun with our people.
Yeah, it's not a bad move to have Tom Cruise somehow affiliated with you either, is it?
No, no, it was fun.
Some say you're a risk taker. Felix also said you've taken a lot of chances over the years with drivers that most owners would consider a risk. When you think about Jeff Bodine, Southern Sport, and Jeff's a Yankee.
Yeah.
Felix said, as we say in Spanish, that takes some big cojones.
Yeah. Felix is a piece of work. Yeah. No, but when you're young, you're brave, and you know you I would take any franchise when I first started. Peugeot. I was the biggest Sterling dealer in the country, and then I you went through a downturn, and you say, oh man, you almost lost it all. So you get a little bit as you get older, you get wiser, and you don't take as many chances as you did when you were young and early, and you learn from your mistakes. And I tell our people all the time, hey, I want to make a mistake one time. I don't want to do it multiple times. So we'll all learn together. So yeah, I have been a little bit of a risk taker, and in racing, I have a gut that if I see a guy that's got a lot of talent and he's got to have the whole package. He can work with sponsors and so forth. But yeah, I guess I have been pretty brave early on.
Well, and you've had some enormous talent around you, and in fact, Felix also said that you know driver talent better than anybody in NASCAR ever has. And we can think of a couple of names, one being Jimmy Johnson, who's been on this program, and Jeff
Yeah,
Gordon.
yeah,
Just incredible, historic NASCAR talent.
yeah.
What was it like working with the two of them?
It's amazing. They're like my sons, both of them. And Jeff, I saw Jeff and said, man, this kid's got all the talent. And I took a chance, didn't have a sponsor, and everybody thought I was crazy. Back in those days when Jeff signed up, um, you had to have a pedigree for the top teams. You had to be about 35 years old. You had to have a name. Probably your father was in it. And here I come with this kid, and it changed the whole landscape of racing.
Boy Wonder.
Uh, Yeah, boy wonder, and then everybody's looking for the next Jeff Gordon. And Jimmy Johnson's the same way. I watched him in stadium trucks when he was just a kid, 16, and through Chevrolet and Herb Fishel, said you need to watch this guy. And then then I have Chase Elliott, 14 years old, 15 years old, winning races against some of the top stars on dirt tracks. And so I signed him up at 14. Now he's youngest, one of the youngest champions, just like Jeff. So spotting that talent early is a good thing. But when you see a guy that just has natural talent, I mean, car control, if you put him in the right position, he'll do well.
And they did. Let me ask you about Jeff's ascension into your organization. Just recently announced in June that Jeff Gordon will effectively be number 2 to you in
Yeah.
Hendrick Motorsports. That's got to be exciting for you. What does that mean to you to have Jeff within the organization now from a business perspective?
Well, Jeff is so sharp. He's a good businessman. He's a great businessman, but he knows racing and he knows talent. But the thing that he's so good at is these young drivers respect him, and he coaches them, and he knows what the car takes, and he's been there, and he's a great ambassador for us with sponsors, and new sponsors and old sponsors. You know, it when Jeff Gordon shows up, the CEO wants to be there. If I show up, I might get the third string. But
Likely not.
no, I'm just kidding. But he he loves the competition side, and he's so good with the young drivers. And I've seen him work with them. And he signed a deal with me back years ago for a lifetime deal. And so we have never had an argument. We've never had a misunderstanding. We've never had a lawyer get involved with a contract between us. And so he's like a son to me. And I just think it's one of these days I might not be there and he'll be in good hands. I had lots of plans with my son and he was killed, but Jeff has just been super close to me.
Let's talk about that day, if you don't mind. We're almost coming up to 20 years, amazingly, Rick. October 24th, 2004. You did not get on the Hendrick plane to go to Martinsville Speedway. You backed off at the last minute. Unfortunately, as you just mentioned, we know the tragedy. Your son, brother, 2 nieces, 6 employees. And Felix was actually there with you when the phone rang. And
Yeah.
I imagine you live with that daily.
Yeah, it's yeah, he had his fiance was pregnant. We found out the day of the service, and we got the cutest little granddaughter who now is 16 and looks just like him. And we are very fortunate we get to have her with us a lot, and she just really fills a void that it doesn't replace him at all, but it's a piece of him. Yeah, that was the toughest time in my life. I felt I just I didn't know if I could do it anymore. It was like a blur, and I couldn't believe that we lost so many. And my brother and I just finished the facility with Ricky's office next to mine, and we had all these plans, and all of a sudden it wasn't God's plan, and then I said I'm I've got to go out and see the people at Motorsports. It'd been about 2 weeks, a week and a half, and I walked into the building and everybody was weeping, and I was, and my wife and my daughter, uh, and I said, we can't not carry on for these people that have given everything. Because Ricky had written when he was just a little boy in school, racing runs through my veins like water through a brook.
Hmm.
And, uh, he would have been better at it than, at running it than I was, and I would have been, and I am. And yeah, I lost a lot of friends and family that day, and but you just you go on to honor them, and it's not a day that goes by, or lots of times in a day, that I don't think about him and miss him and think what it would be like if he was here. But
Yeah, Jeff Gordon, and you had called him right afterwards. Well, about a week after. Let me start that again. You had called Jeff Gordon about a week later, and you said, "I feel like a general in the Army that's been shot 15 times, but we're not the first American family to have a tragedy. Let's roll up our sleeves and be an example for others to go on."
yeah, I have learned that there's a fraternity that you don't want to be in, and that's losing a child. But I've had so many folks that I've talked to after they've had it, and it's so hard. But you just the memories are good now. We laugh. Jeff and I laugh a lot about some of the things my son did. He didn't live that long, but he lived a full life. He had a good time, and it was. My brother had a big Bible study at Motorsports, so they still do that in his name. We have the Ricky Hendrick scholarships. We have the Ricky Hendrick Disaster Fund for employees, and so we keep their names alive, and carry on. And I know that that's what they'd want us to do.
Let's talk about teamwork and the importance of teamwork. You had an interesting moment with Jimmy Johnson and his former crew chief, Chad Knaus,
Yeah.
over milk and cookies.
Yeah.
And it kind of got things going the right way, from a very deep hole that the team was in to the top of the mountain, which you said at one point, "I've been down a lot of roads before, but it's the first time I've ever seen something go so far south and turn around and go so well." Tell me about milk. Tell me about milk and cookies, Rick.
Yeah. I had Jimmy. Here's Jimmy and Jimmy Johnson, the driver, and Chad Knaus, the crew chief, and they start bickering. And this was early on.
Oh,
And
05.
yeah, and they were fighting, and it was silly, and they weren't talking at times, and so both of them were kind of leaning toward, maybe we should do something different. Maybe I need a new crew chief. Maybe I need to be with another driver. And so it was so petty. I, I, I told him, I said, I want to get together with you and come to my office.
Well,
And
the
so when
boss
they
is calling
came,
him to the office.
oh yeah, I called him on the carpet, and I had a gallon of milk and a bunch of cookies. And I said, guys, listen, all the things that you talked to me about are really, really unbelievable. So let's have some milk and cookies, and then we're gonna sit on the floor and have time out. And then after that, maybe we can get to the bottom of what the real problem is. And they started laughing, and I said, see how silly it is. I mean, think about it. You guys win races, you can be champions, and you're gonna blow it all because you can't communicate. And so I got a counselor to work with them, and I worked with them, and they laughed, and then they went on to do big things. But it was so close to fracturing that deal over nothing, really. But that was a good and milk and cookies moment. I use that a lot, though, to people.
Well, and your philosophy, Rick, is get it out on the table, talk about it, and
Yeah,
at least try to keep some harmony in the camp.
yeah, yeah. You can't. The team can't reach its potential if the two guys that are leaders are having a problem. They've got to lead by example and get the team all behind them, because we had some of the guys were on Chad's side, some of the guys on the team were on Jimmy's side. It fractures the team. And I said, look, we got to, you guys just have got to work on this, and I will separate you, but you don't know what you're going to get. you don't know who your next crew chief will be, and he may not be able to adjust the car, but you might like him, and that's going to kill your future. So, and same with Chad, and they really laughed and talked, and we said, okay, now I'll be the mediator. Tell me what you don't like about Chad.
Hmm.
And Jimmy was saying, I said, and Chad, what do you not like about Jimmy? And so we worked it out.
You're a camp counselor.
I'm a counselor, yeah, man.
Terry Labonte once said that nobody can motivate people like Rick Hendrick. He said, and he never has to say a word. How do you do that?
I don't know. I think I don't. I don't. I really do like to talk about the positives and talk a lot about leadership and working together. Communication's key, and problems can be solved if you'll face them and work together and don't be hard-headed about what you want so much. And then when you have to get into it and get stern or hold people accountable, they react because you don't do it every day. You're mostly positive, wanting to lead and motivate, but when you've got someone that's not in line, one cancer in a camp will kill it all. So we always say that you'll never tear down a good organization from the outside. It'll always come from the inside. So just trying to make sure you identify those little fractures before they become too big.
Whether it's the car dealership world or the racing world, I've got to believe you're involved, like your colleague and friend, Roger Penske. You're involved in all the details every day. Is
Yeah,
that right, Rick?
yeah, that's right. Roger's a good buddy of mine. I tell him all the time he's my hero. And but like on the automobile side, the end of the month, I spend 3 days on a video conference with all the dealerships. I'll do the Chevy group together. I'll do the Chrysler group together. I'll do BMW and Lexus together, and I'll go through. It takes me 3 days, but we're all on a conference call, on a video call, and I go through every department and every deal. It's 102 of them, and I go through the inventory and the day supply and the gross per unit new and used and customer counts, how many ROs we've done, and then I rank the deals, which is really fun. The highest gross from the least amount of gross, and the penetration on the warranties and everything. And we rank everybody, rank every group, and that takes me 3 days. But at the end of that, I've touched everybody in every deal, and I know exactly what they're doing, and I know who needs help. And when we finish that call, I'll do a recap with the market area VPs, and I'll say, this is what I see that we need to work on, and these are the hot sheet. These are the 10 deals, and so it's worked. And I just think it's communication. I think I used to go around and shake every hand in every deal every year, and I just can't do it anymore. I mean, it's just too big, too many people, and when I get in the store, it'll take me,
You probably
almost a
can't get
half a
out,
day.
right?
No, you can't get out. Yeah, and which is a great thing. But I'll bring on the conference call. I'll get the top salesman from each store one month. I'll get the top tech one month. I'll get the top finance manager one month, and acknowledge them on the call in front of everyone. And so, um, it's it works, and it's something I've done the conference calls since I've had 3 deals. So,
And you're still actively involved in racing.
oh yeah, yeah,
Spend some time down
yeah.
at the shop floor.
I go. Yeah, they have a meeting on Mondays right after the race, and they recap the race, the drivers and the crew chiefs, and I get in the middle of that just to listen, and then I might have some observations, and then my job is again working with sponsors and just identifying areas that I see from the outside, and and just I wear both hats. I mean, I'm I'm having to call audibles all the time, but you know, it's fun. I love it. I love the racing. I love the competition. I love the car business. I love the people, and I love being around them. I love seeing a young guy have an opportunity. No different than the car business. You know, we like to grow our own. We have the Hendrick University, and we have a leadership uh, university, and it's work a week, and you go back, and it takes a couple of years to get through it. But and then those guys, usually ladies and gentlemen, uh, get promoted, and we just feel like if you want to have a culture, you can't convert people at an old age. You know, it's hard to do that. When you buy a deal, it's different. Those are the hardest things when you have to convert another group to your way of doing stuff.
And you're not getting smaller, and the business is consolidating. So I
Yeah,
imagine there's going to be a few more stores that have to go through that cultural transformation as well.
that's right. Yeah, but you know what? When I'll walk away from a store that I just don't feel like it's just no energy. It's just going to be after. It's just a total rebuild. I don't, you know, I don't want to take on that at this point in my life. It's just too hard. And but if I find a deal where a dealer's done a good job and he's got a good core, and I meet the GM and he's a sharp guy, and I'll pay more for that deal because I have a feeling they can convert, and I'll tell them, hey, if you got a better idea, we'll all do it your way, but this is the way we do it, and we I don't want to operate 100 different ways. I can't do that.
What's the state of NASCAR today? Where can it improve? How can it improve?
I think we're seeing more interest, more fans. Uh, we're going to this new car next year. I think the competition is really good right now, um, and more people are watching it. New sponsors are, interested in it. So, when you look at the crowds we're having and selling out places, that's a great sign. And the economy seems to be rolling pretty good. And our our fans are showing up, and they're camping, and it feels better than it has in probably 4 or 5 years to
And
me.
you've changed your mind on a couple of things. One related to drivers competing in a race car outside of the NASCAR Cup Series.
Boy, you've done some homework on me. Golly, Dave, I'm impressed. I am impressed. Oh man, yeah. I tell you, I've changed my mind because they learn so much by driving high horsepower cars um, out of shape, and the only negative to it is getting hurt. And I tell them, hey, listen, I'm not going to stop you from doing it, but if you get hurt, I got to put somebody else in the car. So you just weigh the positives and the negatives. Is it worth the risk? And Larson was won a big race last Saturday night, one of the biggest sprint car races in the country, and I YouTube to see the end of the race, and they had this segment, Larson flipping, and so I punched it, and it showed flips that he'd done, crashes, and I thought, oh man, I sent him a note, and I said, man, you need to. I'm not sure I like this, and he said, you're not supposed to be looking at that. I said, well,
He loves the dirt tracks too.
oh, he loves it. He loves
Kyle
it.
Larson. Yeah, he
Yeah.
loves them. Favorite moments when you think back, when you trace back your racing career. What really pops out?
The
I know that's hard.
Yeah, yeah. When you've been fortunate enough to win Indy and Daytona and all that, but the proudest moment for me was when my son won the inaugural truck race in Kansas, and the emotions, and with my wife and I, and Ricky, that's the one that will go down with me as the most heartfelt, exciting, because you see your son do something that he wanted to do so bad, and do so well in it, and so that's the one.
Wow. I'll leave you on this. Jeff Gordon once said he's just an amazing person in so many ways. To me, he's the guy you want to be. He's a family guy. He's a great businessman. He's competitive, yet he knows how to relax. Now, Rick Hendrick, I know when it comes to fishing, you get on a boat at about 7 a.m. and you might not come back till 8 p.m. if you haven't caught enough fish.
Yeah.
So you're still fishing?
I'm still fishing as much as I can. Yeah, I love saltwater fishing, and I love Cabo in October, and love Costa Rica, and I fish in the Keys, and I have trips with some of my top guys. They compete to go fishing with me, and I use that as an excuse to go fishing. that's my hall pass. I can hey, I've got to take these guys. They won this trip, so no, I love it. It's just something about being on the water. I love being on the water in boats. I got a couple of fast boats that I run on the water. It's just a relaxing. My mind gets off of all the other things, and water is just special for me.
It goes back to the start of those racing days.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'll say goodbye to you. But don't hang up, because I got one more personal thing to say to you. So we'll end with this. Well, on the moment of passing Richard Petty, I got to give you Richard's ultimate compliment to you. He said he deserves everything he's got, and he's good people on top of that.
Oh, well, I'm honored to hear that. And Richard said something. Kyle said something the other day about Rick Hendrick's organization is family, and Petty's are family, and some are not. And I thought, boy, those kind of things mean more to me than trophies, because that's what I try to do. And if it comes across that way, you can be competitive, and you don't have to be brutal, and you don't have to be. I mean, I'm going down. I asked Richard. I said, "Hey, can I just come sit with you and for archives for me, video us talking through what could have been, and just our way back then?" And he said, "Sure." So I thank you for saying that. I believe that treating people right and doing the right thing, you can still be super successful.
You've treated us right here on the show. Thanks for spending so much time with me, Rick Hendrick.
Absolutely.
The automobile is one of the most important inventions that revolutionized the modern world. In America, the rich history of car culture runs deep as technology continues to shape the future of the industry. Jason Stein,
former publisher of Automotive News,
is here to share the stories of people passionate about cars, from industry leaders and innovators to car-obsessed celebrities. Buckle up as Jason takes you inside the boardroom, onto the track, and around the bend on Cars and Culture on Sirius XM Business Radio.